Hello, welcome to today's lesson. In our today's lesson, we are going to explain nitrogen cycle, or we are going to describe nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle is a topic in soil science. It is also described in other courses like agronomy, crop production, and botany. So, before we begin, I want us to look at the word nitrogen. I want us to understand nitrogen. What is nitrogen? Nitrogen is described as an element which is colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas. Nitrogen is 78% in the atmosphere. So when we say it is 78% in the atmosphere, we simply mean nitrogen is present in ocean, soil, and all living organisms, which includes animals and plants. What is nitrogen cycle? What is nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen cycle is defined as a process by which nitrogen is converted into nitrogen compound through the atmosphere, soil, and organisms. Nitrogen cycle is a process by which the nitrogen is converted into nitrogen compounds through the atmosphere, soil, and living organism. Nitrogen in the atmosphere, soil, dead organic matter, and animal wastes are converted to nitrates by specialized bacteria in order to make them usable for all the living organisms like plants and animals. The nitrogen gas that is in the atmosphere cannot be absorbed by plants directly, which means plants cannot absorb nitrogen as a gas. Therefore, it needs to be converted into nitrates, ammonia, amino acids, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the nitrates will further be converted into nitrogen gas and back to the atmosphere, where the cycle is going to begin again. Okay, how does the nitrogen cycle occur? How does the nitrogen cycle occur? So nitrogen cycle occurs in 5 processes, or rather we can say there are 5 processes that are involved in nitrogen cycle. These are nitrogen fixation, nitrification, assimilation, ammonification, and denitrification. Others call it denitrification. So when we look at these processes, there are 5. But to make it simpler, in our discussion, we are going to divide it into 4 sequences. We are going to describe or explain nitrogen cycle into 4 sequences. The first sequence, which is sequence 1, is fixing nitrogen in the atmosphere. Fixing nitrogen in the atmosphere, which is nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation. So in the sequence 1, we are going to understand how nitrogen is fixed in the atmosphere, which is nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere. So nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere takes place when lightning strikes. When lightning strikes nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, the 2 atoms of nitrogen separates from each other and reacts with oxygen. Consequently, the nitrates will form, which means when lightning continues striking, the nitrogen atoms are going to separate and react with oxygen, which later is going to form nitrates. So nitrogen fixation, in short, we can say it's a process of converting nitrogen gas into nitrates through lightning. We can say nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere is the process of converting gas into nitrates through lightning. Nitrogen is fixed through the atmosphere. We will react, or rather, we will reach the soil through rain. What we mean is the nitrogen that is fixed in the atmosphere will reach the soil through rain. Now, before we proceed to the other aspect, I want to indicate that the nitrogen that is in the atmosphere contributes small amounts to the cycle. Nitrogen in the atmosphere contributes small amount to the cycle. Okay. In the same sequence, let's look at assimilation. So the nitrates that are going to be formed in the atmosphere through the nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere are going to be absorbed by the roots of plants to make their own amino acid in order to produce proteins which are needed by the plants for their growth and synthetic activities. So the process of absorbing nitrates from the soil by the roots of plants is called assimilation. So when the nitrates are being fixed in the atmosphere and they've reached the soil through the rains, when they are absorbed by the plants, that is what we call assimilation. In short, the process of absorbing nitrates from the soil by the roots of plants is called assimilation. So remember, without sufficient nitrogen, plants will not grow well, and plants' leaves will turn yellow, like we were discussing in plant nutrition. We said when there is no nitrogen, the leaves are going to be pale green to yellow. Yes. All right, sequence 2. So in sequence 2, we are going to look at nitrogen fixation in the soil. Nitrogen fixation in the soil, which means the nitrogen that is fixed from the soil. So nitrogen fixation in the soil, it occurs in the soils through the bacteria found in legume roots, like in beans, peas, and peanuts. So in these roots, they are what we call rhizobium. In legume roots, they are what we call rhizobium. So rhizobium in legume converts nitrogen from the atmosphere to ammonia. The rhizobium in legume converts nitrogen from the atmosphere to ammonia. And the process of converting nitrogen gas into ammonia by the bacteria, which is called rhizobium, is called nitrogen fixation in the soil. So ammonia will be absorbed by plants and it is going to be used by the plants. So the absorption of ammonia by plant, it is also called assimilation. It is also called assimilation. All right. In the same sequence too, we are also going to look at nitrification. So large amounts of nitrogen fixation is accomplished by free living organisms or living bacteria in the soil. These bacteria are called nitrifying bacteria. Remember, the plants cannot absorb a lot of ammonia, or rather, too much ammonia to plants is harmful. So these bacteria convert ammonia into nitrates. These bacteria convert ammonia into nitrates. So the conversion of ammonia into nitrates is called nitrification. So nitrification can be defined as the process of converting ammonia into nitrates by the nitrifying bacteria. So when the nitrogen is converted into ammonia by Rhizobium bacteria, and this ammonia is being converted into nitrates, that is called nitrification. So the conversion of ammonia to nitrates is called nitrification, and the ammonia which is being converted is coming from the process that took place in nitrogen fixation in the soils by Rhizobium bacteria, which are found in the roots of legume plants. Okay. All right. Let's proceed to sequence 3. So in sequence 3, we look at acquiring nitrogen from organisms. So we simply mean, how does plants acquire nitrogen from other living organisms? So in sequence 3, we simply look at ammonification. In sequence 3, we look at ammonification. So we'll start with defining what ammonification is. Ammonification is the process of converting dead organic matter into ammonia through the action of fungi and bacteria. Ammonification is the converting of dead organic matter into ammonia through the action of fungi and bacteria. Now, how does this process occur? So the ammonia is converted by, in a case where animals, we give an example, when animals are feeding, like giraffes, they feed from plants. So those animals are going to assimilate. They are going to assimilate nitrogen from trees. And over time, these animals are going to die. When they die, their body wastes. Yeah, so when animal dies and dead plants together, they will decay through the action of fungi and other organisms. Then ammonia will be produced. When plants dies, dead plants, when these together combines, as well as feces of animals, when these three combines and decays, so for these three to decay or decompose, there is need for fungi and bacteria. So when these decay, they're going to produce ammonia. So that is how ammonia is produced. So after ammonia is produced, it can be absorbed like that by plants, but it can also be further converted into nitrates. So ammonia being converted further into nitrates is what we call nitrification. Sequence 4. So in sequence 4, we look at returning the nitrogen back to the atmosphere. How is nitrogen returned back to the atmosphere? In sequence 4, we look at denitrification, which is denitrification. So denitrification is the process of converting nitrates into nitrogen gas. So the converting of nitrates into nitrogen gas takes place with the help of nitrifying bacteria or denitrifying bacteria. So the nitrates converted from nitrogen from the atmosphere, dead organisms, and in the soil will then be converted back to nitrogen gas by denitrifying bacteria, and the cycle will begin again. So, in summary, nitrogen fixation in the atmosphere is a process of converting nitrogen gas into nitrates through lightning. Nitrogen fixation in soil is the process of converting gas or nitrogen gas into ammonia through Rhizobium bacteria, which are found in legume plants. Process number 2 is nitrification. Nitrification is the process of converting ammonia into nitrates through nitrifying bacteria. Process number 3, which is assimilation. Assimilation is a process of absorbing nitrogen compounds, which are nitrates, ammonia, by the plants and animals. Process number 4, ammonification. Ammonification is a process of converting dead organic matter and animal waste into ammonia through decomposers, which are fungi and bacteria. Process number 5 is denitrification. Denitrification is a process of converting nitrates into nitrogen gas by the help of denitrifying bacteria. All right, thank you so much. Thank you for attention. If there are any questions, you can post them through